Hey, I'm Doug. Welcome to Backcountry Pilgrim, a channel all about hiking, camping, backpacking, and the gear that goes with it. Today, I'm going to be looking at my shoe collection and see if any of them are ready to retire. If you're like me, getting rid of your hiking shoes is not always easy because you probably spent a lot of money on them, you probably made some really good memories in them, and it just is uncomfortable tossing those things in the recycle bin. However, for the health of your feet's sake, as well as your shins and legs and knees and back, when a shoe reaches a certain point, it is time to get rid of it. And so I am going to be looking through my current shoe collection to see which ones need to go. Now, the shoes that I have behind me here are my trail runners. I am not looking at my hiking boots today. The reason it's important to note this is that if you go online and you look up when should I retire my trail runners, most of the articles and videos that you're going to get are going to be from runners. And those runners are probably going to quote the typical formula for when it is time to retire a running shoe. A decent running shoe should last between 300 and 500 miles. However, if you are a hiker and not a trail runner, that formula may not apply. There are some critical differences between what someone does when they're hiking and when they're running. Most notably, a runner puts about 4 times as much pressure into each step of their shoe as a hiker does. So if you weigh 150 pounds, imagine having a 450-pound backpack on when you go hiking. Obviously, that's going to wear your shoes out a lot faster than 150. Another big difference is that unless you are hearing from someone that is a real hardcore trail runner, you are probably doing things in your shoes and to your shoes that most runners will not. I would guess that most runners spend most of their time on sidewalks, paved roads, dirt roads, and maybe dirt paths. A hiker, however, is probably going to be going over very rugged terrain. They're going to be slipping and sliding a lot more than a runner will. They're going to be doing creek crossings. They may take their shoes in the snow. There's a lot of elemental damage that is going to occur to that shoe that may not happen to a runner. Another factor to consider is that runners typically put a lot more miles on their shoes on a daily basis than hikers do. Many hikers are lucky if they can get out once a week or even once a month to do a trail, and when they do, they're probably going somewhere between 10 and 20 miles, whereas a runner might cover that distance every single day of the week, training for a marathon. And one final consideration in the difference between runners and hikers is that hikers will often go longer in between proper shoe care than a runner might. A runner can get up in the morning, knock out their run, come back, and maybe take care of their shoes, clean them up, store them in a climate-controlled area, and head off to work. I know for me personally, after I've gotten done beating on my shoes all day out on the trail, I typically come home and toss the shoes in the garage. Many times my shoes end up in the trunk for a 5 or 6 hour hot, maybe humid drive, and all of these things are degrading the quality of the shoe even when I'm not using them. Now, for hiking, because we are not delivering that 400% of our body weight into the shoe with every step, I would say that hikers can often go longer with their shoes than a runner can safely. However, to the degree that you count on the support that a good shoe offers your foot and keeps your body in alignment on the trail, to that degree, you want to be very careful watching out for your shoes starting to fall apart. So what all this means is that for hikers at least, a neat little formula of use is not really necessarily going to indicate when a shoe needs to be retired. I would say that time and mileage are factors in when we should consider retiring those shoes, but those go along with others that are more important. Now, sometimes it is difficult to tell if a shoe is shot or not. You might have that beloved pair of shoes that has just conformed so well to your foot and your hiking gait that you just don't think you can ever retire it, when in fact it may not be doing you the kind of good that you think it is. Now, what I have in my hand here is a fresh, out-of-the-box Ultra Lone Peak 4.0. Now, compare this to this sad-looking thing. As you can see, this shoe has seen quite a bit of love. It's got holes. Structurally, this shoe has seen better days. Now, this is my Topo Mountain Racer. This is supposed to be one of the toughest shoes that I have. However, I have not treated it very well, apparently, and it is not doing well at all. As you can see, the upper is actually separating from the midsole on both sides. These shoes are literally being held together by super glue right now. So regardless of how good the tread is, regardless of how good that midsole is, I'm not getting a lot of upper support because it's literally tearing apart from the midsole. Another consideration we want to look at is the heel cup. The heel cup is this part of the shoe that is supposed to wrap around and support your heel. It should have a good shape. It should come back into that shape, and you should not see abrasion or breakthrough occurring in the material on the inside. Now, this one is not doing a whole lot for me anymore. There is almost no support at all. It is just a rag that wraps around my foot. So if I need that ankle support, not getting it from this shoe. Compare that heel cup to my Topo Ultra Venture 2. This is a nice, sturdy heel cup. When I push on it, it springs back into place, and it is not just going to allow me to roll over if my foot gets on uneven terrain. The Topo Mountain Racer, doing about the same, little less than the Ultra Venture. It's getting a little less springy, but it is still there. The inside of the heel cup is good. The padding is bouncing back. My poor old Lone Peaks, once again, pretty much squishy. One of the best ways to tell how your shoe is doing is to compare it to a brand new one, because maybe Ultra just made a really soft heel cup in the Lone Peaks. But as I push it around, I see, no, we're getting spring back. We're getting some stiffness back here that is not found in the other shoe. So the way the heel feels in the other shoes is not the way it is supposed to. This is the very first trail runner I ever bought. I've had this for over 2 years, and although it actually looks pretty decent on the outside, it doesn't have a whole lot of holes or major abrasions. The upper isn't peeling apart from the midsole, and there is a little bit of traction left. This shoe is basically a rag. I mean, I can practically ball this thing up and put it in my pocket. So to the degree that I need structural support from the upper, this thing just doesn't have it. There is just nothing left here. Further, the midsole has become very squishy. I should not really be able to do this with a shoe. If you can imagine using this part of the shoe to support my heel, just with very little effort, I am able to just squeeze and smush this thing around, and when I squeeze it on the inside, the bounce back just really isn't there. It does come back into shape, but it does so slowly, especially when I compare this to a brand new shoe. So for example, same model. When I push this, first of all, it's difficult. Second, it only bends where it should, namely right here across the metatarsals where the foot needs to naturally bend. The rest of the shoe is keeping its shape. When I squeeze the heel, I do get a little bit of bend, of course, from where the bottom of the sole extends over the midsole, but I'm not getting that raggy feeling. When I squeeze the midsole, it pops right back into place. When I twist the shoe, it's not deforming. It's popping right back into place, and it's fairly difficult for me to twist it out of shape. Again, let's compare that to this poor thing, which I can twist like a piece of licorice. When I do the heel test, I am getting quite a bit of bend. On the twist test, I'm getting certainly a lot more than I would expect from a brand new shoe. The platform is somewhat stiff compared to my very oldest trail runners, but it's not doing a very good job anymore. Another way to check the integrity of the midsole is to see if you are getting permanent creases in the shoe. Now, you want to be careful that they're not just dirt lines, but when you look at how thick the midsole is compared to a brand new shoe, and you see little crease lines like these, that is an indicator that the midsole has had it. If you look at what my heel is doing to this shoe, it is actually compressing it so far down that it's actually smashing the midsole in, and my foot is only being stopped by the amount of material that is still there. The cushion is all but gone. Again, compare that to a new shoe. where I get almost complete bounce back and the stack height remains the same. It's not angled down when I let go of it. So this is a nice bouncy midsole compared to the squishy marshmallow that I'm experiencing in the used shoes. Another thing we want to look at is the outsole. Am I seeing the midsole through the grip? Are the lugs worn off? Is there some part of the shoe that is worn smooth and the other is not? Those could be indications of my biomechanics. They can also be an indicator that the shoe has worn so much on just one side that now it is not supporting the foot properly anymore. So comparing the brand new shoe to the used shoe, you can see that there is definitely a difference in the tread. There are some worn smooth parts. If you do the kinds of hikes where slippage is going to be a big problem, you got to take a good look at that outsole. Make sure you've got good lugs, make sure that you are not smoothing off one area of the shoe, and you want to keep in mind that as the upper of the shoe starts to degenerate, it's going to be letting in more particles of dirt and sand and stuff like that, which not only degrades the shoe, but can wear out your socks and give you blisters as you wear your skin out itself. All of these factors can be indicators that your shoes need to go, or at least need to be used for a different purpose than hitting those trails. So I know for me that if I was going to be going on a pretty rugged hike, I would probably have to say these shoes are all out. They have all lost too much structural integrity in the uppers, too much bounce in the midsole, and in some cases, too much gription on the outer sole. So probably the only shoes that I would take on a pretty rough hike would be my Topo Ultra Venture 2s or my brand new Ultra Lone Peak 4.0s. However, that does not mean that I wouldn't go out on a trail with my kids, just kind of walking around cruising. But objectively speaking, these three pairs of shoes have pretty much reached the end of their usefulness as far as good trail runners. Alright, I hope this video has been helpful to you. If it has, would you consider giving it a like? I would really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed to Backcountry Pilgrim, maybe subscribe and click that bell if you want to know the next time a video drops. Until next time, I'm Doug. Thanks for watching.